I didn't know what the Michigan Municipal League was, and they've been around since 1899. So with that, we want to bring in Dan Gilmartin. He's the Executive Director and CEO. Great to have you with us. How are you?
I'm great. Great to be here. I did not bring any visual aids like Jenna just had, but I do have a colorful shirt on, so maybe that'll help. So.
Well, that with the bright, sunny, beautiful green background, that works.
Yeah. Okay, we'll take that.
So, Dan, I have to ask you, do you get that question a lot? Like, what is the Michigan Municipal League?
Yeah, I mean, as you said, we've been around since 1898. So we're largely a behind the scenes organization, but we work with communities throughout the state and even get involved nationally a little bit. But our goal is to make communities in Michigan better places to live, better places to work, to visit, to play, to get educated in. And our work goes sort of soup to nuts on trying to get those communities to up their game, whether that's helping them with municipal budget issues or helping them reinvigorate their downtowns, or looking at housing or recreation, you name it. And so it's very interesting work.
I will say, because I'm thinking about this, and you are a nonprofit, but it's a big mission. It is a really big mission covering a lot of different areas. And then as someone who lives in Keagle Harbor, when we bought our house about 14, 15 years ago, they had a master plan. I don't think anything on that master plan has come to fruition. So how do you help guide some of these communities to not only create the master plans, but also implement them?
Yeah, I think that's important. I mean, there's a lot of plans out there in every walk of life that look great, and they're sitting on a shelf somewhere collecting dust, or maybe now they're just sitting in the back of a computer somewhere. But that's it. And it gets to one of the issues in Michigan is really the capacity to do a lot of these things. Hasn't been there for so long for a number of different reasons. But we find that one of the biggest issues we have in all the communities, whether it's a big community like Detroit or a smaller one like Keagle Harbor, is that the capacity to move sort of the plan into a stage of getting something done just isn't there like it used to be. And so that's where, in a lot of respects, that's where we try to sort of fill in that gap and help communities to get from, again, whether it's a downtown area, whether it's a park system, whatever they're working on, and get it from the point of being something they hope gets done to actually implementing it on the ground.
So, Dan, how many different communities does your nonprofit work with here in the state of Michigan?
Yeah, over 500.
Wow.
There are 533 cities and villages in the state, incorporated areas. So it's we like to say from Monroe to Ironwood and everywhere in between. So we work with all of them. We represent them sort of en masse before the state legislature or the federal government with respect to municipal issues. And then we work individually with communities in sort of the program planning areas. We educate local officials a lot. Maybe it's one of the more important things that we do is to bring new trends and new ideas of new ways of getting things done to the mayor, a city administrator, or a police chief, whoever it might be, to make sure that we're moving everybody forward and keeping our places good.
That's so important, because I'm thinking about your world, and as someone who has worked within the government entities, you know that leadership changes all the time, and every time you have a leadership change, some of these projects can change and either get thrust forward or get pushed to the back burner. So how do you navigate that world?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'd say sometimes good, sometimes not so good, depending upon sort of what's going on in the community or at the state level or the federal level. It all kind of rolls into one. And I think that the good thing about the sustainability, if you will, of the local unit, where it's largely outside sort of the whims of the state and federal, political craziness, you get some of that at the local level, but for the most part, people around city council tables or village boards tables or wherever are trying to get Main Street paved, and they're trying to get downtown businesses moving, and they're trying to get Little League programs for kids and keep your water safe and those types of things. How we get there sometimes is different, but the focus is on sort of providing a better place for you and your neighbors. And it takes us out of some of that craziness that I think you're referencing in the political system and the governmental system we see at the state and federal level. Not all of it, but some of it for sure.
Dan Gilmartin with us here on the MegaCast. He's the Executive Director and CEO for the Michigan Municipal League. And with that, Dan, if I can ask you, because while you're focused on one community, we know that we are all interconnected on so many of our projects, being whether it's our roadways or our water systems. So how do you bring the different communities together on some of these more regional issues?
Yeah, that's probably one of the biggest things we've been doing, I'd say, in the last decade or so. I think it'll even go further. And a great example of that is the American American Rescue Plan.
I know it's always hard to keep up with what they're calling it today, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's something different every day. But that's what I'm talking about there. And that's the funding coming in directly to communities from the federal government. And while it's wonderful that, you know, community A, every community is getting something, again, whether you're Detroit or Kiko Harbor, but the real, we think that the real opportunity is for communities to work together, to work on bigger issues and make that really transformational. So while you can take the money as a local unit of government and redo a street or whatever it is that's on your list of things that hasn't been able to get done because of funding issues, if Kiko Harbor thinks of itself and its surrounding communities and maybe works with Oakland County and works with the state because the state got money and put some things together, you know, they can turn their $500,000 or whatever they're getting into perhaps a $5 or a $10 or $15 million investment in their community. And that's really how we're getting them to think. And I think that, you know, individuals don't think of community as stopping at a municipal boundary. And I don't think economies work that way. And I don't think people live their lives that way. So it's really important to be a municipal official as an elected member or an appointed member of a board, but it's also important to be a civic leader and just sort of understand that what we're trying to do is create places that bring more opportunity, more wealth in all of its dimensions to people in the communities. So that's where I think that regionalism approach, that statewide approach is so important. And I think we're seeing some real positive results there.
So if I can ask you, because we do know, especially when we're talking about the smaller communities, our elected leaders are made up of people from such diverse backgrounds. And in a lot of cases, they're very part-time. They may be paid $50 a meeting. They're not full-time politicians. So how do you bring people from those backgrounds together and try to get them to think bigger and long-term?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I'll give you a little quiz here. So you thought you were going to get off easy this morning, but how many full-time elected officials at the local level are there in the state?
Community-wise?
Yeah.
Out of how many?
Out of 533 cities, how many of them have a full-time mayor?
Oh, I'd say maybe 150.
12.
12.
Yeah. So again, people say politician or whatever. And so there are over 3,000 local elected officials, and 99% of them are never going to run for higher office and make this into sort of a career and get into some of the nonsense, quite frankly, you see at the state of the federal level. So again, they're there thinking about, you know, how do I get, you know, that beach in our community improved? How do I make sure our water system is updated and providing clean, fresh water for people in the community? How do I pave Main Street? I mean, those are the issues that I think local officials spend the vast majority of their time on, and maybe a little bit on politics, where I think when you get to the state and the federal level, the vast majority of time is on politics. There's a little bit on policy. So, you know, I think it's incumbent upon groups like ours to bring those ideas and bring those innovative concepts before folks, because they've got tough jobs. You're right. They're getting paid. You know, I think Huntington Woods, they get $1 a year. Some communities get nothing. You know, some places pay $1,200 or something, which barely, you know, covers your transportation back and forth to City Hall a few times a month for meetings. So the local officials are doing this because they love their communities, because they're part of what's going on. And it makes it, like I said, it makes it a little bit easier to get through to cut through not the red tape, but to cut through the craziness and get people focused on doing better.
So I went at 12 out of 532.
Yeah.
That is amazing. And I would think a good portion of them are right here in Southeast Michigan.
Yeah, probably 8 or 9 of them are for sure.
That is that, and I will say, I think for so many people, especially during the pandemic, we're hoping that people understand the importance of our local elected leaders have on our day-to-day lives and the decisions that they've been making, and really give them a lot of grace and respect, because they're doing this for, like you said, basically little to no money. It's really kind of a volunteer position, and the decisions that they're making and having to do it because, a lot of them don't come with an urban planning background. So they're doing this out of the goodness of their hearts for the betterment of their communities. And so with that too, can I ask you, how do you take it though, or how do you compare us here in Michigan with not only the United States, but globally as well on some of our projects? Because I feel like we're behind some of our European counterparts.
In what area are you talking? I mean,
like transportation or global climate, things of that nature.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think because of the economic downturn we've all been facing for the last, if we're being honest, probably 40 or 50 years at this point. But so I'm not talking about the recent recession or anything like that. But with the industrial economy sort of taking a lot of money sort of out of Michigan over the last few decades plus, we have, I think, fallen behind. And I think folks have gotten a little bit scared to jump out and do big things. That's why I think this ARPA money is so important, because it gives people a chance to dream about what they're doing in their communities and to really truly make places that are great places that people want to be in. Because at a time where individuals and businesses and whole industries are moving around and they're mobile, and you're not sort of stuck doing tractors in Illinois anymore, and autos in Detroit and Silicon Valley with computers. I mean, you can do things from literally from anywhere. We find the communities that are doing great, that have better economies, that have higher quality of life, however you want to measure it, they're the ones that people want to be in. And we all see that, and we all go places and say, wow, that's a great town. And when you say why you think it's a great town, I can tell you right now, it's going to have some energy on the streets, some historic infrastructure, some cool stuff to do, some just things that are sort of universal in terms of what people look for in a community. But in some ways, we stepped back from trying to create that here in Michigan because we've sort of said, okay, we've got to buckle down and we've got to ride this sucker out. But again, I think you mentioned Europe, and there are other places that are spending a lot of money on infrastructure and really sort of putting the nuts and bolts in place to make sure that a community or a region or a state can thrive. I'm hoping we'll do more of that here in Michigan, and certainly this is an opportunity right now like we haven't had in decades. It may not have for decades as we move forward. You're talking about upwards of $8 to $10 billion coming into the state from the federal government at various levels to really get at some of those issues you talked about. So that's something where we're working really overtime on that to make sure that we take full advantage of the opportunity that sits before us, because we always say when it comes to recessions, Michigan's first in and last out. And I think when it comes to sort of economic upheaval, the rest of the country is starting to see some of the differences and sort of the changes of how people work now that we've all been dealing with and working on. So I think we can have an opportunity to be first out on some of this stuff as well.
It's a fascinating nonprofit that you work for. It really is. And I think so many people don't realize that you exist. I hate to say that, but you're so vital. You really are vital.
Yeah. Well, that probably means we're doing our job. I mean, we're not front page type of operation, but we're getting, like I said, educating and pushing and bringing in new innovative ideas and trying to get some strategy around doing these bigger things that's going to impact everybody, whether you're in small business or you're a school teacher or you're a retiree or a young person looking to get into the workforce. We've got to make sure we've got communities in this state that you want to be in. Otherwise, people aren't going to be here. And I think that's the nexus at the end of the day. We've got to have places that people love, places that help improve the human experience. And if we have enough of those places, we're going to do just fine as a state.
Yeah, and I will say one of the things that we've understood, especially about supporting our businesses and our small businesses, they make our communities very unique. there's a box store, a Target, a Lowe's in every community. I can go to, Charleston, South Carolina and go to the suburbs and they're going to have a Target. But what makes me want to go to Charleston is the downtown walkable community, those unique stores. It makes us want to go to Traverse City. We don't need more box stores or strip malls. While they're important to a degree, we have to build a community, and that has make it unique, but also make the people want to come.
Yeah, that authenticity is really what people want, and that's really important. You're absolutely right. You can go on the side of a highway, and standing on the apron of the Target store and looking across the street at the Lowe's, and you could be literally anywhere in the world. But if you're on Old Woodward in downtown Birmingham, that's a unique experience. And making sure that you have that experience available to people, again, whether it's Birmingham or Royal Oak or Rochester or anywhere else in Oakland County or throughout the state, we've got to make sure that we understand the importance of those places, and we understand their importance for everybody. Whether again, all the people I listed off earlier, wherever you are in life, if we've got those unique places, if we've got places that really create community wealth in all of its formats and allow for people to live healthy lives, allow for people to work, allow for people to enjoy them. Stuff we talked about, arts and culture, that was on earlier. Jenna speaking about what she's doing. Those types of places, what they feed into a community, are ultimately what make it unique, what make it authentic, and what make it good. We all go places and come back and say, I wish we had that here. But for some reason in Michigan, we've gotten away from that. And I think it's time we get back to that and really celebrate who we are and what these places bring. And I think nothing can stop us if we get going in that direction. It's a really exciting time.
Absolutely. You're listening to 89.3 WBLD Orchard Lake, 88.1 WBFH Bloomfield Hills. Dan Gilmartin with us, Executive Director and CEO for the Michigan Municipal League. And Dan, I know we didn't get a chance to talk to you about state and local transportation. We'd love to have you on again, because I think I saw a meme that said one thing that's constant in Michigan: I-75 is under construction. So I'd love to talk to you more, and we'll have you on again in the future, if that's okay.
That's okay. I'm pretty sure we're not going to fix regional transportation anytime soon. So whenever you need me, I'm back.
Well, thank you again for your time and your expertise. If people want to find out more information, and I understand you have a podcast as well, how can they do so?
Yeah, the easiest thing is to go to mml.org. That is our spot, our website, and you can kind of fiddle your way around there and find out all the different things that we're doing. And there's contact info there and all kinds of different things people can check out.
Well, thank you again for your time. We so appreciate it.
Thank you.